Okay. You in Knoxville?
Yeah,
Okay.
Clinton. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
About a minute and 13 seconds out. Yeah. Okay, this will be cool. Talking about Tennessee. Go ask Justin if he can come in at 3:15. Okay. How many? What? Okay. Here we go. 35 seconds. Okay. I told him 3:15. He'll come back in here. Okay. Okay, welcome to the Friday afternoon edition of the www.sidelines.live podcast. It is Friday, January 22nd. Flying by, Jimmy. Jimmy Hodge, national college football contributor and basketball up in Chicago, is joining us. And we will have Rodney Orr from Tyler Insider on with us. Like to always have Rodney on as much as we can, not just talking about Alabama, but college football in general and recruiting. Billy Roberts will join us about 15 after 3. Billy's got to bounce off, and then he'll be back on about the last half hour when Jimmy Ott from ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge joins us. And Kyle Orr will try to be with us from Melt, Atlanta, to talk a lot about the changing landscape in college athletics with the name, image, and likeness, the NCAA tournament, what's going to happen. It looks like it's more and more going to be likely to be the bubble in Indianapolis, but there is a lot to talk about. But first, we got to say this. We're broadcasting live today in Wynne, Arkansas from Red River Ford Toyota, one of our sponsors. If you live in Memphis and you're driving toward Little Rock, get off at the Forest City exit, go north 11 miles. You can't miss it. On Highway 64 from Memphis, it's about a 45-minute trip. You're on the way to Heber Springs or on the way back. It's about a half mile south of Highway 64 below the Walmart. Red River Ford Toyota. Man, they've got all kinds of good-looking cars, trucks, and SUVs, and it is a battle. Toyota and Ford, they're selling a lot of all of them. F-150s, Toyota Tundras, Tacomas, the 150s, the F-250 on the Fords, and they're going to have those Broncos, folks. The Bronco is hot. And, Jimmy, we all grew up, and the Ford Bronco was it. I mean, you had to get out and, change the wheel hub and lock it in to be four-wheel drive. Man, these things now, the technology has advanced so much. You get off-road, they almost automatically go into four-wheel drive mode. But Justin Wynn, the general manager, will be out here with us, talking with us. We'll also talk with people throughout the dealership here. It is Red River Ford Toyota. Check them out on our website. They're there. If you're looking to get a car, truck, SUV, new or used, you can get the process started online so that when you get in here, you're not here for 4 or 5 hours, and they're not going to hotbox you. They're easy people to deal with. They've been in the car business for a long time. One of the members of the Red River Auto Group, anyone in the Memphis Mid-South area will recognize the name John Dobbs Jr. They've been in the car and truck business for a long time. He's part of the Red River Auto Group. You will love dealing with the people here. Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Jimmy, you're up in Knoxville right now. There's a lot happening. We know Jeremy Pruitt was fired earlier this week when he was basically thrown in front of a Mack truck, but he'll have his day. He's hired the law firm of Lightfoot and Franklin down in Birmingham. They have a lot of experience going head-to-head with the NCAA. And I think the buyout is just a little bit under $13 million. Tennessee doesn't want to have to pay Jeremy Pruitt. The process will work itself out. A lot of coaches are gone. The transfer portal is right now, lots of Tennessee players have put their names in there. Kevin Steele is the interim coach. Big news with Danny White being named the athletic director, leaving that position at University of Central Florida. talk about Danny White and this impact that it likely will have on Tennessee and how they will select their next football coach, because they can't get this one wrong. They just have got to get it right, because Tennessee football, with all the money and the tradition and the passionate fan base, screwing this up, it's like, Munson in the movie Kingpin. You're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels, and how'd you screw it up? But Jimmy Hodge, come on in.
Well, I don't think Tennessee could have done better in being able to land Danny White. He's considered one of the premier athletic directors in the country, even though he's relatively young. He's the son of Duke athletic director Kevin White, who was previously the AD at Notre Dame, and before then the athletic director at Arizona State. So he's comes from a very a good bloodlines there, and also his brother is head coach, basketball coach at Florida. So there's a lot of talent in that family, and he has made some notable progress at his previous stops at Central Florida. He hired Scott Frost to take over and job, and about 5 years ago, and he took over for George O'Leary, and he transformed an 0-12 program into a 13-0 program within 2 years. So he certainly has a good history of making coaching hires on the football side. That hire alone would give him credibility for the next decade for sure. And he was also involved in the hire of Nate Oates at Buffalo. Of course, I wouldn't give him as much credit on that one as I did with the Frost hire, because Bobby Hurley was the guy that brought Nate into college basketball. Nate had won multiple state championships at Romulus High School outside of Detroit, and it turned out Bobby was recruiting one of Nate's players, and when he watched Romulus practice, he was just impressed by how Nate ran these practices, and he said it was one of the very few high school basketball teams he had seen that practiced like a college team. So when Bobby had very early success at Buffalo and he went to Arizona State, he strongly recommended Nate to be the head coach at Buffalo, and if Danny White would have gone in another direction, Nate would have been at Arizona State, maybe not for long, but that turned out to be a very good sequence of events, not only for Buffalo, but certainly for Alabama now.
Yeah, it really has. And just a couple of years into the job, Nate Oates doing a phenomenal job. He had a lot of talent, though, that he inherited. Guys like John Petty, who is just lighting it up with the three-pointers this year. Tennessee, right now, Kevin Steele is the interim coach. Looks like Rodney Garner, a former Auburn defensive line coach who has experience at Tennessee, 96, 97, 98. He recruited the nucleus of that national championship team in 98. Then he went on to Georgia for 15 years or 14 years, whatever, to be their recruiting coordinator, defensive line coach. Rodney Garner's coached 41 linemen who've gone on to play in the NFL. Kevin Steele, a Tennessee grad in 1980 from Dillon, South Carolina, finished up there. He's had major stops. He's coached under Tom Osborne at Nebraska. He's coached at Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Carolina Panthers in the NFL. Great pedigree. Now, he didn't get the Auburn job. I know he wanted it, but I think he's a good calming influence, in my opinion, for Tennessee. Jimmy, the Tennessee fans and a lot of fan bases in the SEC are anxious. Call it the Nick Saban effect or whatever you want. There's just tremendous pressure. And if you have to have someone else push you to be great, you're never going to be great. I just think that it's part of life in the SEC. Tennessee's recruiting class, guys can ask for their, to get out of their national letters of intent. You've got guys like Eric Gray, the running back, and Henry To'oTo'o, entering the transfer portal. That doesn't mean they can't come back, but Tennessee has got to stop the bleeding. Do they need to just keep Kevin Steele for a year or two, see what he does? Look what Ohio State did when they did a stopgap, or do they need to just try to go make a big hire right now? And who is out there that the Tennessee fans would embrace? You know, think about it. We did it on the podcast Wednesday night. Where would Tennessee football be right now had they hired Greg Schiano 3 years ago? Look at the job he's doing at Rutgers right now. And wow, Tennessee fans, a lot of people in the media, Clay Travis and different people had, opinions about Greg Schiano because of the Penn State mess. That was a loss right there. I think Greg Schiano is a great coach, but talk about that.
Well, they have the choice of, going with Steele on an interim basis for a year and to, see what might be available a year from now, because at this date, as far as just getting a quote splash hire that would blow the Tennessee fan base away, I don't think it's there. The major obstacle with that is that rival schools are just going to say to these elite recruits that having an interim coach just continues to provide uncertainty. You have no idea really who you might be playing for if you commit to Tennessee, and then more importantly than that, you actually sign on the line. Although with this new rule where everybody will be able to transfer one time, they could use that one occasion if they do sign and then a coaching change is made, they could go somewhere else. So it's far from an ideal situation, and I think this might be the way for them to go. I think a lot of the Tennessee fan base would be very divided on it. But Fulmer mentioned in the press conference, they want a guy that's going to be there for 10 years. And the other side of this coin, and I kind of think this is the way they're going to go. I think they're going to go with somebody like Jamie Chadwell at Coastal Carolina. He has done a sensational job there. They lost to
Brigham Young.
Liberty. Hugh Freeze Liberty team in their bowl game.
They beat BYU. That's right.
Yeah, it took them down to the final seconds. They beat BYU. In fairness, BYU took that game with like 3 or 4 days' notice, but still, that was a very good BYU team. And Coastal Carolina was very impressive how they held up front on both sides of the ball to win the game. There was nothing fluky about that victory. And before then, he had done a stellar job at Charleston Southern. And their program had not been at the D1 level for long at all. And he kind of took them to a very competitive level. So I think the fact that he's had such a huge couple of years, I think he's got a real shot at this. And he was in the running till the very end at South Carolina. So this is a guy that I tell you what, I think he might be the guy. Then you hear Will Healy at Charlotte, who basically took Austin Peay football from just as a lower level as you can get and made them competitive, took them into deep into the playoffs in the FCS, and was snapped up by Charlotte, and he's getting things going there. But Tennessee fans, they'll look at his overall record, because when you take over programs like that, it's going to take you a while to have gaudy numbers in the one-loss category. But he's certainly a rising star. But to me, I think it very well could be Chadwell. But again, you never know who Danny White has on his radar, and who might be interested in taking that job. So it'll be really interesting, and we're certainly going to find out shortly. But but anyway, Rodney, listen, I thank you for let me get my thoughts in on this, and I'll join you later in the podcast.
Hey, absolutely, Jimmy Hodge. Thank you so much. Hey, we're going to be joined now by Justin Wynn, the general manager, Red River Ford Toyota here in Wynn, Arkansas. And Justin, look, here it is, January 22nd. We're flying by into the new year. Friday afternoon, beautiful day over here. I just drove around in your Toyota Tundra truck. That thing it's fantastic. It really is. The room in the back is big, and it's an ongoing battle between who can, put the most vehicles out there, Ford or Toyota or what have you. And you think about, bottom line, they're all really impressive. I've driven a lot, but that Toyota Tundra with the 35-inch tires, that is, if you're listening to this, a lot of people are, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas, make the trip. But Justin, you are the general manager. Tell people about the dealership and what's going on out here.
So we've got all kinds of stuff going on, Rob. You've been coming over for a while now, a couple months here, and you've seen our lot expand. You've seen our inventory grow. I mean, we're just doing big things here. And you're right about the Tundra. I mean, you can't. It's got all the power in the world. It'll do whatever you need it to do, haul what you need it to haul. And the back seat, I mean, if you hit you a deer going down the road, just throw it in the back seat. You don't have to put it in the bed.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at all the vehicles out here now. This is the 2021s. A lot of people I know have 2016, 2017, whatever. The value of trade-ins. You've mentioned this every time, but we need to let people know every time about how many people are looking for later models, 2016s and 17s.
So yeah, with the pandemic came a shortage of new vehicles. Okay. The factory shut down. They had to start building PPEs and things like that for the government. And so with them shutting down became a shortage of new vehicles, which there in turn increased the value of pre-owned vehicles. Your trade-in value has gone up. Never in my life. Now, Rob, I've been doing this over 20 years. I've been in this car business over 20 years, and never have I seen book values fluctuate the way they have over the course of this last year. They're probably 20-25% higher than they were in January of 2020.
Well, when people come in here, and we talk about this a lot, you can get, I know you've got some potential sales right now out there on the floor, but when people get the process started online, it's a lot easier, and they can do so much of it to the point when they get here, y'all are ready. And it's like an account form that's already been populated, and you're not going to be here all day.
If you started online and get everything started, we can realistically have you out of here in about 5 minutes. I mean, it can be super quick if it's all done. And if you don't feel if you don't feel comfortable coming to a dealership, if you want to socially distance, we can bring the vehicle to you and put it in your driveway. We can email, basically DocuSign everything like people are doing with mortgages now. Yeah. We email you the paperwork, you click it, it's done, and we'll put the vehicle in your driveway.
What you're saying then is that the car and truck business has kept up with everybody else. In fact, you're ahead. The thought of going into a dealership and getting in and out of there, driving off the lot in 5 or 10 minutes is something no one would have ever dreamed of 10 or 20 years ago. You're there 4 or 5 hours and you leave and you just like, what did I just do? I'll tell you one thing, your sales team, you've got 6 salesmen out there. We had Austin on. Try to bring Austin or someone from your service department, because once you buy these vehicles, you got to bring them back in here for service. You might have trouble with your 4-wheel drive. You could have just regular maintenance and everything like that. One last thing before you go, we're here at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas, 45 minutes from Memphis. Look, if you know the name John Dobbs Jr., he's part of the Dobbs family. They've been in the car and truck business for a long time. He's part of the Red River Auto Group. Talk real quick, one more thing before you go. The maintenance, the service team that you have out here, and the turnaround and what they can expect.
So the service team has done an excellent job since we've taken over. Their traffic has increased exponentially, just like the sales traffic here. The name Red River is synonymous with great service and just great experience all the way around. And it's bleeding over to my service department here, but they're still able to get you in very quickly. If you just need your oil change, some maintenance done, there's no appointment necessary. Just pull in and we'll tell you how long it'll be. It may be 30 minutes, maybe an hour, but we'll be honest with you right up front, and you can make a decision if you want to stay. A lot of times what will happen, someone will set an appointment and not show up, and then we have to turn people away because we have these appointments set. Well, we don't like doing that. And so we don't really do appointments for maintenance. Show up and we'll get you in. It's that simple. And they're doing a great job. The service department's growing, and it's going to continue to be really well.
Well, you talk about the process, the Saban process. You know, you're a big Razorback fan, but you'll work with anybody. But it is a process when you come in here. Everybody on this lot is committed. Ford, Toyota, Red River Ford, Toyota, and Wynn, Arkansas. And I know you got to get back out on the floor, but if you will come back out here in the second hour, if you can bring Austin or one of the guys from the service department, we love having them on because it's all part of the team. That is Justin Wynn, General Manager, Red River Ford, Toyota, here in Wynn, Arkansas. Let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. Before we do that, I want to say something about Tom Dorian, the Dorian Insurance Agency, 6240 Poplar Avenue in Memphis. That's my agent. I've known Tom Dorian 43 years. Man, he was a big senior in high school when I was a freshman. He was like Wally Cleaver, man. He was one of the best athletes in the school, and also one of the nicest, kindest, most decent people. You know, remember, Wally Cleaver was nice to Eddie Haskell. I mean, look, Tom Dorian, great guy, father of 5. I know him well. He is my agent. Audrey and I met with him this summer, and we went right over after the meeting a couple of days later and said, we want what you have. Life insurance, property and casualty, homeowners insurance. Everybody needs insurance. Have that discussion with Tom Dorian. He's a great listener. He'll tell you if what you have doesn't need to be changed, he will not change it. That's what I like about him. He may say, what you got works. I mean, I appreciate you coming in to see me, but I'm not going to try to build my book by disassembling working and well put together insurance plans. 6240 Poplar Avenue in East Memphis, right before the Chick-fil-A on Poplar. And give him a call, 901-328-5858. Tom played college football at the University of Memphis. He is a Tiger, started on the offensive line for 3 years. First class man. Tom Dorian, the Dorian Insurance Agency. Check him out on our website at sidelines.live. Hey, Rob Brown, again, we're here at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas. We'll be with you till 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern on the Friday afternoon edition of Sidelines.live. We'll be back. Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, coming up in just a minute. And Billy Roberts will try to be on with us as well from Atlanta, talking a lot of college football and basketball. We'll be right back. How much longer? I need to go to the restroom. I need to go to the restroom.
Got about 10 seconds. You need me to do something else?
I'll be ready.
Turning on your mic. It's on.
Okay, Rob Brown back here with you, broadcasting live from Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas, about a 45-minute trip from Memphis. Easy to get to. You're on I-40. You're going west toward Little Rock, or you're going east toward Memphis. Get off the Forest City exit, go north 11 miles. You cannot miss it. Red River Ford Toyota. Also, if you're on Highway 64, lots of my friends, lots of people in Memphis and eastern Arkansas go back and forth to Greer's Ferry, Heber Springs, Arkansas. Beautiful up there on the lake. Highway 64 right there by the Walmart. Go about a half mile south. Red River Ford Toyota. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Or as Justin Wynn, the general manager here, always says, until the last sale is done. And they are really, really working with people, especially if you have a late model, a 2015, 16, 17, car or truck, SUV, especially on the trucks. They are in high demand because back in the spring when a lot of the automakers slowed manufacturing down to a trickle or just shut it down altogether, inventory, it's hard to come by on the used cars and trucks. And if you've got one, they're working with you and they've got some great deals. As Justin said, he's never seen in 20 years in the car and truck business deals like what are available right now. Billy Roberts, again, will be trying to join us here in just a minute from Atlanta. And, we had Jimmy Hodge on the first 15 minutes. He's going to have to jump off and come back on with us in the 4:30 to 5 slot when we've got Jimmy Ott from down in ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. But there's a lot happening. A lot of stuff is happening fast right now. 6 weeks ago, I started hearing rumblings about Jeremy Pruitt and his future at Tennessee. Look, that looks to me like an internal sabotage in Knoxville. I don't know anything. I'm just going by just gut instinct, what I see. But it was like they wanted to take this guy out. I've never seen a chancellor come out and throw somebody under the bus without any sort of ability to have representation, due process. And look, the NCAA doesn't have subpoena power. They always convict based on typically circumstantial evidence when schools get in trouble. Jeremy Pruitt has hired Lightfoot and Franklin, the law firm in Birmingham. They've been hired by a lot of coaches and universities over the years. This one, it's going to be fun to watch. If I was Tennessee, what I would do right now, if they know for a fact that all these violations occurred, they need to quickly end this nightmare. Go to the NCAA and say, look, here's what we've done. Can we just get it over with now? Next year, no bowl for 1 year or whatever. I don't know how bad things are, but get it over with. Make an offer up front so the NCAA doesn't have to drag you through the mud for years. Look what it did to Ole Miss's football program. That was a nightmare after the Hugh Freeze left Ole Miss. And then Matt Luke was brought in basically as a sacrificial lamb because he was the third. His father, his brother, Tommy Luke was the quarterback in 1990 for Ole Miss. But they took the cheap way out. And it's to me, that's just not how you want to do a coaching hire. But Matt Luke, good guy, no question about that. He's now the offensive line coach at Georgia, and Ole Miss brought in Lane Kiffin, and I thought that was a brilliant hire. But Tennessee, they need to get this thing right. Hey, we're on the phone now. We've got Billy Roberts from Atlanta, Georgia, my old roommate in college at Auburn from LaGrange, Georgia. I've been living up in Atlanta for about 30 years. And not only does he know Auburn, but he knows the Atlanta Falcons, all your Atlanta sports around the South, Clemson, college football, basketball, whatever. Always love to get Billy's insight. He's a high-tech double knot spy, and is what he is right now. And Billy, we've been talking a lot about Jeremy Pruitt. We did a podcast Wednesday, Jimmy Hodge and Jake Crane and I kind of on the, couple hours notice. Let's just get some information out. We're going to be increasing the podcast as we go forward. Remember, Sidelines is always on every Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Central, sidelines.live podcast, Saturday mornings, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, Sports 56 WHBQ, and sidelines.live. And again, the Sunday afternoon wrap-up show, 3 to 5 p.m. at www.sidelines.live. We really focus on college football, college basketball, college baseball, recruiting. Of course, we're going to get into the pros a little bit because so many of these athletes go on and play professionally. But Billy, what does Tennessee need to do? And are there any assistant coaches, coordinators, anybody out there? Jimmy Hodge was on for the first 15 minutes of the show. He likes Jamie Chadwell, the Coastal Carolina head football coach, who's done a really good job building that program up. But what are your picks for Tennessee? Because right now, Kevin Steele's the interim coach. Not a bad move, but I think that Jimmy made a good point. If they keep him as an interim coach, it's going to be used against Tennessee in recruiting. And Tennessee is saying, and Fulmer's saying, they want to have a coach there for at least 10 years. You've got to have continuity. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I believe, Tennessee, I'll lump them into the same bucket as the Auburns and, the other schools that we talk about. I think that if you look at Saban's blueprint, where he's bringing in, offensive, defensive line coaches with NFL experience. I think he himself obviously had NFL experience with the Dolphins. I think if you're Tennessee, that's what you do. You go, like, what about Dan Quinn? I mean, the Falcons let him go, but he took him to the Super Bowl like 3 years ago. Or, that guy can coach. He's a great defensive coach. He just lost the team a little bit with the Falcons. But what about a guy like that? I think they should make a bold hire and pull somebody from the NFL, because that's what it's going to take in recruiting right now. And that's what Alabama's doing that everybody else is not doing to the degree that they are.
Well, look, speaking of Alabama, it looks like they're going to bring in Bill O'Brien. And I've had a lot of people asking me about that. He was the one who left the Patriots, went to Penn State as a stopgap to stop the bleeding. and you take a look at the success that Bill O'Brien had when he was at Penn State. Look, after the Joe Paterno nightmare in 2011 with Jerry Sandusky, that was horrible. Okay. You talk about dark days in Big Ten history, man, that and that Larry, Manser, the gymnastics coach. I mean, hey, when Christine Brennan came out this year and said, the Big Ten playing college football this year is a dark day, she's out of her. She's nuts. Okay. And, but I think Bill O'Brien went on to coach the Texans. Now he's going to be the new offensive coordinator at Alabama. Billy, good points about, someone like that with an NFL pedigree, because all these kids that sign with Tennessee and Auburn and Alabama think they're going to go to the NFL. And if they don't believe that, they shouldn't play at the highest level. Billy, we're joined now by Rodney Orr from Tuscaloosa, Tider Insider, one of the brighter minds in college football, basketball, recruiting in the country, 25 plus years, the source for Crimson Tide sports. But again, they've got great forums. If you love college football and college sports, Tider Insider is your place. You better rally around it because it's a lot of fun. Rodney, thanks for taking time to join us. And we're talking real quick about this Tennessee situation and, give your thoughts on that. And of course, that's one of Alabama's biggest rivals, 14 in a row over Tennessee. It's unbelievable. But what are your thoughts?
Sounds like to me, Rob, they've got more problems or a lot bigger problems than 14 in a row. How about you?
I agree. I mean, it is, I'm going to tell you what, whenever you get a school, you get elitist liberal pinheads in charge. It destroys your football program. You go back and you look at what Texas did. Look at what Texas did they've never gotten over the power and the prestige that Darrell Royal had, and the academic elites that run Texas. They don't want Texas football to be great. 11 straight years at Texas, 4 losses or more. Look at Tennessee, Rodney. Go back from 1936 to 2004, almost 70-year span. And you take a look at Tennessee football in that 70-year, 70-year span. They had a total of maybe 7 losing seasons in those 70 years, 2005 through 2020, 16 years. They've had 8 losing seasons. I think maybe it's 9 because this was another disaster this year. Their problems, I think, are deep. I mean, for years, the division, Lady Vol athletics and men's athletics, probably a lot of duplication. There's just, if I'm the new athletic director at Tennessee, I clean house and initiate and implement a scorched earth policy. Rodney, you got to do it. What did Nick Saban do when he came to Alabama?
Well, really, it's what he did before he came to Alabama, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that is that he said, hey, I'm not coming unless I'm in total control. So if I'm not in total control, you're talking to the wrong guy if you don't want to give total control. And now Moore just said, you're the guy. I mean, it's yours, you know, to run completely. You have total control. And, well, you know, that's kind of what's happened. But now I'll say this too. You know, you can give somebody total control, but if they're not capable of handling it and managing it, then you're going to crash and burn. So I think, you know, obviously Nick Saban is an incredible manager of all kinds of circumstances that arise in a program in terms of, you know, managing it, running it, all of those things. So that's what's made him so successful, I think. All right, now you look at Tennessee, and first of all, you could see it coming because how many candidates did they go through before they hired Pruitt? About 26?
Yeah, it was a long list.
You know, they hired about 14 of them, I think. And then Phil Fulmer got involved. And, you know, Phil Fulmer had his time there, but it wasn't I think that was a mistake to bring him back. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I think his time was over. And, you know, personally, look, I love Jeremy Pruitt. I think he is a great defensive coach. But here's the thing, Rob. Tennessee knew when they hired him, he had never had head coaching experience. You cannot hire a coach unless you're thoroughly convinced that he can manage a big time program. That's not on Jeremy Pruitt. I'm not knocking him. I'm not saying that one day he's not going to be capable of doing that. But you have to get some experience somewhere. And I don't think it starts at Tennessee. I think it starts somewhere, you know, where you can learn and grow on the job. And that you can't do that at Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, a good analysis. And Billy Roberts in Atlanta chime in on this one. But, you know, my dad said that March 18th, 1954, he graduated Auburn, had a degree in architecture, ROTC, commissioned a second lieutenant. They sent him over to Camp Stewart, Georgia, in Hinesville. It's now Fort Stewart. He said it wasn't hell, but you had a really good view. And he said, I didn't know the first thing about being an officer, but an NCO, a first sergeant, a staff sergeant will teach you everything. Well, being a head coach, Billy, you've talked to him. Rodney, you certainly have. I have. Head coaches, regardless of where they are, football coaches will tell you, man, you don't realize how little coaching you get to do unless you've got great support, great assistance when you become a head coach. And so if you're not careful, you can take a great offensive or defensive coordinator, promote them to the role of head coach, and lose a great defensive or offensive coordinator, and then just get a guy who's trying to herd cats. Billy Roberts, what do you think?
Well, I think you're right on the nose there. And, you know, I had mentioned Dan Quinn a moment ago as a potential candidate. You know, he was a super defense coordinator for the Seahawks, you know, under Pete Carroll. He was the hot candidate to be a head coach, and the Falcons grabbed him. And, you know, he had some short-term success, but over time he was not a program builder. He was a team builder and kind of a rah-rah guy, but he wasn't a program builder. And I believe a guy like that, having gotten his fingers singed a little bit, you know, if he gets another crack, he'll probably do just a good job because he'll recognize, you know, the mistakes he made the first time around. But program builder is a different thing, and that's what it takes. And you look, again, back at Saban, every year he plugs in a new offense coordinator, new defense coordinator, and he keeps on chugging along because he's built a program, not a team. And, you know, that's an amazing thing that he's done. And all the other schools have got to adopt what he's done, or they're I mean, the gap is huge now, and it's just going to get wider and wider until he gets bored and quits, which I don't see happening anytime soon.
No, he's not. And Nick Saban's not even 70 years old. And I mean, my dad's 92, guys, works out every day, still practicing architect and artist, and has his three, you know, scotch and waters and a glass of wine, and gets up about 5:30 in the morning to take control of the high ground. Look, you'll catch up on your sleep when you're dead. great people are like that. Nick Saban has a vision of what he is and who he is. And, we're talking a lot about Tennessee, but again, that's one of a traditional rival of Alabama's. In the 14 years prior to Nick Saban arriving at Alabama, I think Tennessee was 10-4 against Alabama. Since then, they're 0-14. Now, 13 of the last 14 years, Rodney, Nick Saban has had at least one coach leave his staff to take a head coaching job somewhere else. And if you think about it, the only one that's had success is Kirby Smart. Nick Saban is that good of a coach and that good of a manager, but more than anything, he's able to take all those egos and get them to paddle in the same direction so they don't get swamped by the big waves. Rodney, am I right or am I, BSC?
Well, you're talking about getting everyone going in the right direction. I think when Nick Saban came in here, sometimes it takes a place bottoming out. And let me say this, kind of changing directions here a little bit, because I'm thinking about Tennessee. And I know their fans must be distraught where their program is and where it appears to be headed. And it may continue to go down. But sometimes when you bottom out, Rob, you'd be surprised how quickly you can bounce back if you make the right hire. You get the right guys running the program. Everything I can tell, Danny White is apparently going to be has a track record, has a successful track record. I don't know that much about him personally. Just based on a few things I've heard, he's done really well at the places he's been. So that's a start. Now the question is, who's going to be your head coach? Who do they bring in? And I think they're going to obviously have to be patient with whoever they bring in. But he's going to have a job of getting everybody, because right now it's chaos in Knoxville.
Yeah,
I think based on everything I heard. So the coach coming in, whoever it is, they better make sure that that's a guy that's got some experience. And like we said, again, I think it might be the single most important ingredient nowadays as being a head coach in college football: management, being able to manage a program. Because Rob, to me, college football, being a head coach is becoming, and being a coach, period, college football is becoming more and more difficult with this transfer portal. These kids can jump in it overnight. I mean, look at Arik Gilbert. He spends 1 year at LSU. I mean, 10 games in, 8 games in, whatever it was, he decides he's transferring.
Yeah.
These look at some of the things that happened at Florida. Toa and these guys leaving Tennessee right now. These are difficult circumstances to have to manage. So I think that's one of the reasons why I think you have to have a top-notch manager, not just a football coach, not a guy that's got great offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian, whatever. You've got to have a guy that's willing to really dedicate himself to managing all of these different things.
Yeah, it is critical. And look, talking about the transfer portal, look at the number of Tennessee players that have put their names out there. Look, can you trust these guys anymore? And I think we're going down the wrong path with college athletics, pushing this crap transfer portal, pushing this, transfer one time with no restrictions
Penalty.
and no penalty. And I think, isn't that on hold right now? And look,
well, I think they're going to vote on it in March. I'll be honest with you, I have a very difficult time believing it's going to be rejected. That would be me.
Yeah.
Because of the direction everything's going.
Yeah.
Now, I don't like it because I think it sends the wrong message to these kids. These kids are 18 years old when they come in.
Yeah.
They're 18.
Yeah.
I mean, they're young. And first sign of something not being exactly like they think they want it, they're going to jump ship. And guess what? They may go from the fire to the frying pan and find themselves in a more difficult situation.
Yeah.
So I just don't like sending that message of, hey, You know, if it doesn't work out right away, then we'll jump ship.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think quitting is the way to do it.
No, it's not. And I'm gonna tell you what, I'm so tired of this ridiculous false narrative that's put out there, especially those living brain donors in California that are pushing these poor downtrodden student athletes. Those universities are making millions off of them. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you about the checkout gal I saw at the Walmart here in Wynn, Arkansas last night. You know, I bet she's not making $1 million a year, nor are any of the employees at any of the Walmarts out there. But the Walton family, when you combine all their wealth, it's over $250 billion. That's just life, man. Sometimes, in most of the time, it's not fair. You got to do 3 things: improvise, adapt, and overcome. Billy Roberts, come on in here from Atlanta. Are you at Vintage Pizza, by the way? I'm just dreaming about a vintage pizza over there in Brookhaven.
No, I'm not at the moment, but it's early. I may head out there in a little bit.
Yeah, but what do you think about my analogy with the Walmart employee? I mean, good God, you could go out there and get Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants to get the world's smallest violin out there and go, well, let me tell you something there, Squidward. I'll get the world's smallest violin out there.
Well,
It's ridiculous. I'm tired of the crying. You bunch of cream puff snowflakes. Get over yourselves.
well, I mean, to go back to your military analogy, if you are a drill sergeant in the Marine Corps,
Drill instructor.
your guys decide that they want to quit and go, join another outfit or quit the military altogether, you're not going to have a regiment pretty soon, because when it gets tough, the guys are going to go, oh, I guess I'm going to use my get out of jail free card and take off.
Yeah.
And so you have to have some commitment. It's got to be a two-way commitment. I'm going to give you a scholarship if I'm a university. I've got a $100 million football stadium. I got a $60 million indoor practice facility. All that stuff isn't cheap to create the environment, to create a brand, to allow the kid to wear the logo and wear the jersey, be on TV on Saturday. So, they're not being exploited the way that people in California think they are. They're taking advantage of a program in Tennessee's case. It's one of the oldest and winningest in all of college football.
Yeah.
So if you're going to come and put that jersey on, you're benefiting from 100,000 people in the stands and people watching TV. If you catch a couple passes, you're going to get noticed and maybe you'll have a professional career. But this idea that the day you show up at 18, it's got to go your way. And the first time that you don't want to do push-ups in the mud because you stayed out too late and broke curfew, you get to quit and go to enroll at Kentucky. That's ridiculous. That's where you flip the whole relationship on its head, and the kids have all the leverage now, and the coaches are just going to be exasperated. And there's no way to manage that. It's an unmanageable situation.
It is. And I mean, Rodney, I'm going to throw it back to you. When I look out there and this narrative by so many of these whiners out there on the national media, it doesn't matter what network, what service or whatever, just they didn't want us to have college football. They wanted it to fail. These people would have lamented the death of the candle when the light bulb was invented. They're such losers, okay? And I'm going to tell you something else. Guys, you look at it. Again, Billy, great. You just, again, put the light on something. I'm going to expand on that and throw it to Rodney Orr of Tighter Insider, who's with us. And that is, when you sign with Alabama or Tennessee or LSU, Memphis, Florida State, you're signing on to 128 plus years of college football tradition, literally billions that have been invested in the athletic program, all the hard work of those that came before you. And guess what? You know what? Contrary to a lot of these, competitive baseball moms and some of these that start and these parents that start telling their kid, you demand when they're like 7 years old, and they start telling the coaches and athletic directors in high school where they want their son to play when they're in 7th and 8th grade. That ain't how the world works, man. You're going to get your butt kicked up and down the street. And you might as well put a dunce cap on and sit over in the corner with a sign that says, kick me on your back. That's not how it works. In this name, image, and likeness thing, we better be careful. Okay, look, there are going to be people, but I keep bringing this analogy up, Rodney. You got the wide receiver. He's making $10,000 a month from an endorsement from, Love's Travel Plaza or Stuckey's, whatever. I don't care who it is. Who's to say he ain't going to be putting money in the quarterback's, coffee cup, and saying, hey, make sure you throw me all the passes. You don't think that's going to happen? You're very naive. Rodney, what do you think?
Well, I mean, there's probably a lot of issues that would arise that we couldn't even dream of that might, take place. And, I just, it's almost too much to kind of grasp, where this thing could be headed in that regard. So, I've given some thought to that. And, the thing about it is that I look at is the team chemistry. What if you have a player that's, making a sizable amount of money, maybe a receiver or a quarterback, whatever it is, and then you've got a guy on, a defensive lineman or an offensive tackle or whatever it is, and he's doing really well. He's having a great year, but he's not making anything. You just almost wonder, what is the team chemistry? How do you, again, we're talking about a coach, people having to manage people and, kind of keep everybody on the same page. And then at the same time, while you're trying to have this team, who's going to be out there swinging these deals for kids? I mean, you follow what I'm saying? I mean, are some of these kids going to get so caught up in their advertising opportunities that they're going to forget that they're playing college football and what it's all about? I don't know. There's probably going to be 1,000 different issues. I don't know what.
Well, I think you
exactly.
can count Al Sharpton's probably sizing that opportunity up. That looks like a job description he could fill.
Yeah.
Well, I always say this. I don't know what else that that in terms of pay. That I will say this. I have talked to several students at the University of Alabama. We have a lot of them that intern on our statewide Insider Insider TV. And when they tell me the debt that they've incurred from student loans, I mean, it's like a mortgage coming out of college.
Yeah.
When you think about it,
Yeah.
some of these kids. And so I guess it does bother me when you say they don't get anything. That's not exactly true. These athletes, you're talking about have we lost the focus of the value of an education?
Yes, we have.
I mean,
we have.
Okay. Well, that's one thing. They get a free ride. Okay. Now let me say this. And when I say ride, I'm not talking about a Dodge Charger or a whatever.
Yeah.
As contrary to what people say, that rarely happens anywhere in terms of getting a vehicle. Now, I'm not saying they don't get anything. That's another story, but
yeah.
Okay. So here's the deal. They get an education. They get clothing. Okay. They get a monthly stipend. They get fed every meal. And I'm talking about, these are good meals. These are the best there is for these athletes.
Yeah.
They get the best training, physical training that you can get. On top of all that, they get travel, they get exposure. They probably, I don't know. I would be hesitant to put a figure on the amount of money they have for spending money every month. But to say that they don't have money to go out on Friday nights and get a pizza, that's not true.
No.
I mean, that's absolutely not true. So a lot of these things are overblown. But so how much more should they be compensated? Again, that's, I don't know.
Well, there was a great quote recently by one of our guests about Liberty Valance. When it comes to, do you print the truth or the legend? Print the legend, hell with the truth. And that's, again, this pathetic lie, this narrative that is pushed. Think about it, Billy, Rodney. You've played college football at Memphis or Tennessee or Arkansas, Alabama, LSU, Tennessee, Florida. It doesn't matter. You go there 4 or 5 years, even if you're on the scout team and you get out there for one play your whole career, but you get to run on that field on senior day and your family's there. You are going to have the respect of everyone that goes into your office. Whatever you do, they're going to see that letter. And I'm going to tell you, this is how I see it. You're probably going to get more respect if you were a scout team guy, basically a dummy with a pulse out there, just getting your brains beat in every day. Okay. Because even the scholarship players, they respect you immensely. You know that, Billy and Rodney. And so when you look, if you look at the cost of attendance, student athletes nowadays are getting about $1,000 a month. Just, I know you've got to adjust things for inflation, whatever. Ask how many people that are listening to this show all over the country. How many of you got $1,000 a month, inflation adjusted, equivalent when you were in college? Stop it. Okay. And this group of clowns out in California pushing this garbage. I got news for you. California is old news. People are fleeing that state like rats jumping off a sinking ship. And a lot of the best athletes in California are leaving and coming to the South. They're getting out of there. The Pac-12 is in trouble. And we keep pushing this name, image, and likeness. And guys, can't you all just think about this? You've got a football player, Coach Saban. I can't be at practice today. I've got a photo shoot for whatever sponsor you've got. You think that's going to go over very well? And look, if you've got a lab or something like that, and they always know in advance what their class schedule is, I think the thing's going to collapse under its own weight. And y'all are both right. Look what the universities invest. They provide them with the very best. Hey, Rodney, you're a football player at Auburn or Alabama, and you've got a knee injury. Now, how many people out there have access to a doctor like James Andrews or Benton Emblem, part of the Andrews orthopedic group there at St. Vincent's Hospital in Birmingham? I mean, come on, people. These are the best orthopedic people in the world. And the only choice you're going to have to make is, do you want to go have your surgery in Birmingham at St. Vincent's, which is part of the Andrews orthopedic group, or do you want to go to Gulf Breeze, Florida, where Dr. Andrews lives? I mean, come on, people. This stop feeling sorry for these athletes. They've got it so good, and the fringe benefits. Look, Rodney, this, Billy. These guys go out, and people love to buy their meals, buy them a drink or two or three, whatever. Look, you stay out of trouble. You work hard, and even if you get in trouble, people love to see the story of redemption. So I think we've answered this very well. Rodney, real quick before you go, I know you got a lot going on. Tell people, number one, about the TV network that you all have there in Tuscaloosa, Tider Insider TV. Talk about that, and also about Tider Insider, the magazine, the website, because it's the source for Crimson Tide sports. Nothing else like it in the country.
Right. TiderInsider.com. 25 years now. Started when there was no other premium Alabama website on the internet. We were actually the first, and that's probably been the root of our success. Timing's everything, guys. You know how that is. And so TiderInsider.com, it's only $48 a year. You can get access. It gives you all our premium information. You can get access with your credit card. If you prefer, there's address there to send a check. And again, it gives you all our premium information, gives you our all sports forum where, like you said, Rob, there is a tremendous amount of traffic on that all sports forum of Alabama fans and sharing information, not only about Alabama, but SEC, college football in general, basketball, whatever it is. And also, you mentioned the Tider Insider TV, 20 years now at WVUA here in Tuscaloosa, goes throughout a vast majority of the state of Alabama. Our TV show does every Tuesday night. And there is a state-of-the-art, Rob, I didn't know if you and Billy know this, there is a state-of-the-art TV station in the north end of Bryant-Denny Stadium. And that's where we've been doing our TV show for years now. And it's a tremendous facility.
Yeah, I mean, it is great work. And I know that I've talked to people all over the place, and Tider Insider, they're either subscribe to it, or I make sure that I say, you better get on there and subscribe to it, because if you think you know about Alabama, you really don't till you subscribe to it. One other thing real quick, didn't want to pass this up. Nate Oates, the job he's doing as the basketball coach at Alabama, he inherited a lot of talent when he took over. And man, this team is really, they're the best team. They put a WWE wrestling SmackDown on LSU. I mean, John Petty is as good a 3-point shooter as I've ever seen in my life. Talk about that basketball team real quick, and we'll let you go. We got Jake Crane on here in just a minute from the J-Boy podcast, but love to hear your thoughts, and we'll have you on again this weekend. We'll be on again, tomorrow 8 to 10 and Sunday 3 to 5. But basketball, I love it, and Tide's on a roll.
Yes, they are 7-0 in the SEC. Who would have thunk it, to be honest with you? But, they're doing a tremendous job. Obviously, Nate Oates is. And you mentioned some of the talent that was here when he got here. And then he's blended in. He's really brought in some guys that can kind of fill in and fit his system. And I think that's been the key to success. And, yeah, it's pretty incredible, what they're doing right now. They're really loading up from the three, as you know. You may remember this, Rob, since you remember everything. When Alabama won the SEC, I think they were 29-3 or whatever it was, and they go to the NCAA tournament, Sweet 16, and Billy the Kid Donovan and Rick Pitino was the head coach at Providence. You remember that?
Yeah, March of 1986.
Yes, it was not pretty. The way Billy the Kid loaded up against Alabama. But that's kind of the way this Alabama team's shooting the three right now.
Yeah, that 1986 Alabama team was so good, and this is a team they're crushing people. Okay, and I just think the sky's the limit for them. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Look, Rodney Orr, let's get you back on again this weekend from Tider Insider. Thank you, as always, so much. Class act, and always love having you on Sidelines on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, any day of the week. It's great to have Rodney Orr on. Thanks again.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
All right. We are, I'm not sure. Somebody's got their head out the window. Could be. It is Superman. It is Jake Crane, host of the J-Boy podcast. And Jake, got Billy Roberts on the line with us from over in Atlanta. And it was Rodney Orr, Tider Insider, on with us, talking a lot, Jake, about that name, image, and likeness deal. And we were all pointing out that, these athletes they're not taken advantage of, and they've got so much there for them. You've got 128 years of football that's been there before you sign this February, $150 million put into these stadiums. Literally billions has been spent on maintaining and building athletic facilities. You've got tutors, you've got medical assistants, your room and board, your food. You get the best of everything. I think this narrative that these athletes are these beaten up, downtrodden, it's a false narrative. But Jake Crane, you are the host of the J-Boy podcast. By the way, great one on your breakdown of the new Auburn staff, and also your analogy about Sharif Cooper, the double teams will stop. We'll get into all that, but welcome to Sidelines on here with Billy Roberts and Rob Brown.
Hey, guys, it's always an honor to get on here and talk ball with y'all. And, the name, image, and likeness thing, it is a slippery slope, and I'm obviously hesitant toward it. But there is a portion, I think, where when you look at some of the upper echelon guys, the Trevor Lawrences and the Cam Newtons and the Tim Tebows, just the amount of number 2 jerseys at Auburn that were sold when Cam Newton was there, probably monetarily almost starts with a B. That they were able to sell just around the country. And you look at Tim Tebow, and I do think those guys, when they're able to generate that much revenue and almost inject millions of dollars into a university, not just an athletic program themselves, then they should get a cut of that. But what I worry about is saying, all right, well, now we got to pay the walk-ons, or now, you got to pay the third string guy, the third corner that's on scholarship at Boise State. Like, how does that work out? To me, the name, image, and likeness thing should be something that's earned, to where it's, okay, well, if a company wants to endorse you, just like in the real world, if a company wants to endorse you, then that is fine. If Gatorade wants to come in and endorse Trevor Lawrence, that's fine. He should get a cut of that. But the problem's going to be when these small mom-and-pop shops tries to take advantage of, a guy that may not be as heralded, who may be a big-time, corner from, Indiana State or something like that. And all of a sudden the second string guy goes, wait a minute, this guy's getting all the endorsements. The coaches have to play him. There's a ton of little avenues and problems that this creates. when you do it across the board. I think it should be purely capitalistic. If a company wants to come in and sponsor you because of what you do on the field, then that's fine. It should happen. But in my opinion, there also should be in these endorsements a grade stipulation, because you don't want to go endorse a Tate Bigsby as a freshman, and he realizes, well, I'm making this much money from Gatorade, I don't got to go to class, and all of a sudden he's not able to play college football anymore because he didn't think grades were important because he was counting all this paper every month that he was getting. So I think if you do get an endorsement, you should have to maintain the same GPA that you would to be eligible to play, if not maybe more. And that way you could get maybe a little more incentive, or maybe you have to take a certain amount of financial classes while you're there, which to me is one of the most important aspects for these young guys at the end. So there's a lot of problems. I just think it's going to be a mess across the board.
Yeah, and real quick, we're going to take a pause here to talk with Justin Wynn and Austin here at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas. And great points, Jake. We're going to come back about that name, image, and likeness thing. Again, you know, my brother-in-law, Kurt, 26 years in the Marine Corps. I don't think he's able to get and cash in on any endorsements for fighting in Somalia, fighting in Fallujah, delivering flowers in Afghanistan. I mean, come on. This stuff has got to stop. And you know what? You got to learn something. Anything worth having in life is worth working for. You don't go in there when you're 22 years old and, some people are born on third base and thought they hit a triple, but you got to earn it. That's life. And the damn thing you can do about it except get out there and work and throw your guts on the line again and again and again. Who does that sound like, Jake and Jimmy? Coach Dye. That's life. Hey, I want to bring on here Austin. You were on here with us a couple of weeks ago from the service department here. You are as important as anyone. They've got a great team here at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas. Again, several times this year, I've pulled one of our Duck Club members out. He's got a Ford 4x4. He's a sophomore up in Fayetteville, University of Arkansas. And I said, well, did your light go off before you went way 2 miles down that road and got stuck? He said, yes. I said, then why didn't you go get it fixed? What people, I think, a lot of times are scared about bringing a vehicle in to get worked on. But y'all have a service department. Every time I go out there, you've got a lot of vehicles in there. But talk about what it's like to come in here and how you can help people, Ford, Toyota, or whatever.
All right. So, yeah, a lot of people do get nervous about bringing it in. They're worried about our prices and, stuff like that. But a lot of times people will take their vehicle to a place that really don't know much about the brand, and they'll just start throwing parts at it, and then you spend more money there or double the money there than you do when you bring it here to us. So we run into a lot of people with that, and we fix a lot of people's mess ups. I'm not saying that we don't mess up, we're not perfect, but we do try, and we will honor our work.
What about, you've got everything on all the new vehicles, it's electronic, and you got, check engine light, whatever like that comes on, 4-wheel drive or whatever. Typically, is that something that can be fixed that day or, a day or two? And let's say someone's got to leave their car here for a few days. I know they can get transportation, whatever, but talk about that process.
Yeah, so if you have a Ford, Ford Pass actually tells you what your check engine light's on for. The app does if your phone's connected to it. So most of the time people know when they have Ford. On Toyota, it's a little bit different, but we can look at it that day. We can get at least the parts ordered, and if they have to leave it, if it's extensive, we have a loaner program that we got set back up, and most of the time if you're in warranty, it pays for it. If not, the rates aren't terrible. I mean, they're actually pretty good, and we've had a lot of success with it.
Last question. I know you're busy. You got to go. Y'all are out here Monday through Saturday. Get in here at 9 o'clock till 6, 7 o'clock at night. Like Justin, the general manager here, says, until the last sale's done. Y'all's commitment, once you buy the vehicle, that's just the beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we would prefer to service from the beginning of the sale. I mean, until they, trade it in, or however long they keep it. That's what we come here to do, is to help people. So, that's what we enjoy doing.
Well, you're no different than a neurosurgeon or a heart surgeon or whatever, because cars and trucks, when that engine light comes on, you're out in the middle of nowhere. Reminds me of that scene in the movie Vacation when Chevy Chase was out there in the desert and the old family truckster went off and fell apart, and they had to get it fixed. And the guy, he went in there and he said, how much is it going to be? And that guy out in the middle of nowhere had that big wrench in his hand, and he said, how much you got? And he goes, let me see here. He goes, $1,100. He goes, it's $1,100. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're too young for that. By the way, before I go to Justin, how's your duck season been this year?
It's been okay.
That's why they call it hunting. It ain't shopping, man. Austin, what's your last name? Austin Futrell. Look, folks, when you come into Red River Ford Toyota, you got Rusty Howard, the sales manager up front, Justin Wynn, the general manager, Rusty Futrell, Austin Futrell. All these people are here, and it is a process. And if you don't come here, it's a mistake. 45 minutes from Memphis. And let's get Justin Wynn to tell us again real quick. We got the whole weekend coming up. You'll be here tonight a little bit longer. What if you got a car, a truck, a 2016, 2017 Toyota, a Ford, whatever? Talk about these trade-in values.
I'm telling you, Rob, like I told you earlier, if you've been looking to trade, if you've been thinking about it, you don't need to wait. The books have gone out of the roof with these values. They're going to continue to go up for just a little while longer while this pandemic's going on. The factories are starting to pick back up and open, start building new cars. But until they get a plentiful supply on the lot, these trade-in values are high right now, and it's never been a better time.
One last thing before you got to go. I know you've got a lot of people out there. You can get this process started on a car, a truck, SUV, buying one. You want to bring yours in for trade-in online at redriverfordtoyota.com. It's on our website at sidelines.live. Say it again because people need to hear how quickly it can happen if you do all that work before you get in here. Hey, people don't plan to fail, but they usually fail to plan. Planning pays.
So, yeah, if you get it all knocked out online, you can be in and out in about 5 minutes. And, again, you don't even have to come in anymore. We can bring the vehicle to you and put in your driveway. We were talking earlier, I've been doing this a long time. And when I first started, we would take a credit app. People would come in and spend a couple hours looking at cars. We'd take a credit app. And then you'd see a line of salespeople standing next to a fax machine waiting to get an answer back. And it's all just click, click, click now. And you can be in and out extremely quickly.
Well, look, it's a great experience when you can do it that way. It's even better. There's nothing like driving a newer used car, truck, or SUV off the lot over here. A lot of guys in my duck club are like going, we hunt over here. So many people hunt in eastern Arkansas that are from Memphis and Little Rock, going back and forth on I-40. It's about 11 miles north of I-40. You get off there at the Far City exit, half mile south of 64. Lots of my friends listening go to Heber Springs. They got places at the lake over there. I mean, you live over there in Cabot, and you commute. It's a beautiful part of the country. But look, folks, Red River Ford Toyota, we are so blessed to have them as a sponsor here on Sidelines. We're going to be here until 5 p.m. Central, and love talking with the people. You got to get to know the people at the dealership. They're great to deal with. Jake Crane, I know we got some noise in the background. I don't know if that's wind. If you got are you in a convertible with the top down, or is that you, Billy Roberts?
I wish. I'm in the car, windows rolled up. I got you on the Bluetooth. I don't know if that's it, but it shouldn't be too windy unless.
Yeah, if you can, if you can, maybe try the Bluetooth. Is just getting a lot of background in there because you've got a great voice, and I think we can hear it a little bit better now. But
how about now?
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, thank you so much.
There we go.
Hey,
all right. Cool.
Hey, look, thank you, Jake, for doing that. I don't mean.
Hey, no problem.
Hey, look, now that was Billy Roberts, you heard what we've been talking about, and Jake, you're in here with us now talking about this name, image, and likeness issue, and it's a big deal. But let's go on to the next topic. Looking at this, and Jake, you and Jimmy and I did a podcast Wednesday at about 1:30 p.m. Put it up on the sidelines.live website Wednesday afternoon. Thank you, Nigel. Hello, Nigel, our webmaster. But I want to get your thoughts again on the hire of Danny White as the athletic director at Tennessee. I think it's a great hire. His brother, Mike White, is the basketball coach at Florida. His dad's the athletic director at Duke. This guy's got a great pedigree. Tennessee has a great pedigree. They're one of the blue bloods of college football, but they got to get this one right. Do you keep Steele for a year or two? And like Jimmy Hodge says, recruits want to know who's going to be there long term. Or do you go after, and Jimmy suggested, Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina as a possibility? Who are some names and some strategies that you like? And, hey, go from here, and then I'm going to bounce it down to Atlanta and talk to Billy Roberts, who's probably at Vintage Pizza by now, having a nice cold road soda. But, Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, well, Tennessee hadn't made a lot of good decisions lately, but I think they finally slipped up and did here with Danny White. I mean, he's a guy that, from a coaching perspective, you just look at, what he's done in his past and who he's hired, who he's been around, and he's hit a whole heck of a lot more than he's missed. I think he has a true plan in place, and he's going to be a guy that comes in and brings energy and not the, hey, energy that everybody says, but a real behind the scenes. Listen, we have to have a plan. We have to have a guy in here that's got a little personality, but is also organized and understands the importance of social media and the media in general. And I think that's what Danny White brings to Tennessee. As far as head coach names, I know they wanted Hugh Freeze, but that's not going to happen with what's going on there with the NCAA and with the past with Hugh Freeze. But when I look at it, if you're Tennessee, the biggest problem in hiring right now is that you don't know what the NCAA is going to do to you. So every question that you're going to get asked when you sit down with Jamie Chadwell and his representatives or somebody like that is, well, how bad do you think it is? And if they sit here and say, oh, well, we don't think it's that bad, then the guy takes the job and it ends up being horrible where you're not starting off on a great foot. So you got to be honest with them. I actually do think Jamie Chadwell is a guy that would listen, even with the NCAA stuff. Even with him signing that extension out there in Coastal, I know this is a job he's had his eye on. I think he thinks he can do well here, and Tennessee be very smart to hire him. I love the offense that he runs, that spread option with some triple concepts, especially up front. They do a great job influencing, whether it's in the run game, typically, mostly, but also in the pass game, which I think has evolved his teams as they've gone along. His offense is kind of like Willie Fritz's a little bit on steroids in the passing game. So I think that's the guy they'll zero in on. Tony Elliott's another one. I just don't know if Tony's ready. He also has a great gig at Clemson. And why would you leave that to take over a place that is going to be, have NCAA scrutiny? So if I had to put my money on anybody right now, it'd be Jamie Chadwell. But with that NCAA cloud hanging over him, it's going to be tough. But it's a good start with Danny White.
Yeah, one other thing before we go back to Billy Roberts. Dylan Brooks, Roanoke, Alabama. His cousin Jarris McIntyre finished up at Auburn in 2003, wide receiver. I think he's now the head football coach at Tampa Catholic. Dylan's uncle, Cedric McIntyre from Sidney Lanier High School in Montgomery, all SEC running back for Shug Jordan in Auburn in the mid-'70s. Look, do you think Dylan Brooks is going to be able to, first of all, get out of his national letter of intent? I know he's got a lot of friends at Auburn, but look, where does this stuff stop? Okay, extenuating circumstances. Yeah, the head coach left, but you signed with the university. We hear both sides of the argument.
Yeah, and again, that's there's some merit to that, but there's only a few ways you can get out of an LOI, and really the definition is life-changing event. Family member dies. I've seen that. Somebody got sick. Seen that. But also when a head coach, the head coach, we got to make sure that we clarify that. It's not the offensive coordinator. It's not the AD. It's not the president of the school. It's the head coach that you signed to play for, because that is a big deal. And people say, oh, well, you picked the school because of the university. Well, the university's not going to be yelling at you for 4 years. And the university doesn't have an offensive game plan or a defensive game plan to put you in certain spots. So while that argument has merit, people that say, oh, the kid signs with the school, you got to wake up. That's not how it works anymore. If everybody went and recruited like that, nobody would sign anybody. The days of kids growing up saying, I just want to go to Auburn because I'm an Auburn fan is over. The days of the top kids now saying, how will you get me to the NFL? How much money do your guys make that go to the NFL in their first years before they get their second contract? So there's a lot that goes into it, but losing the head coach that you signed for is obviously a huge deal in any sport. I think he will be able to get out of the LOI, and I think he will sign with Auburn.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one to watch. Billy Roberts, you're down in Atlanta. That area, 6 million people, 22 counties. We talk about it all the time. It's the largest college sports market in America. Now, per capita, for whatever, all things, percentages, there's no better TV market in America for college football viewership than Birmingham. But you look at Atlanta, and the state of Georgia now producing about 250 Division I college football players a year. But Georgia Southern's program has been around for more than 25, 30 years. They've had a lot of success. You've got Georgia State taking the old Turner Field there in Atlanta, Kennesaw State, and it's happening. There's more demand. There's more players coming out, and I'm going to start this debate. Look around you. Georgia might sign 10 players in the state of Georgia this year total in their recruiting. They go nationwide. That allows Tennessee, Auburn, Clemson, Florida State, Alabama, so many schools to go in there. Arkansas, Sam Pittman's going to tap into there. Billy, what do Georgia fans and we have Lauren Smith on from the Georgia Football Network quite a bit. Hudson Mason's been on with us. Buck Ballou, former Georgia quarterback out of Valdosta, Titletown, USA. What do Georgia fans feel like their place is in the pecking order of the blue bloods of the SEC in college football?
Well, you could debate whether it's deserved or not, but they very much see themselves as, a top 2 or 3 program, not only historically, but like right now, so they feel like they're due. They've got, back to back really good recruiting classes. They feel very good that, the decision to part ways with Mark Richt has paid off in spades for them. They think that. And you can't argue otherwise because he retired pretty quickly after he, went down to Miami. So, they've got a hot coach in Kirby Smart, great recruiter, has got him to the championship game, relatively quickly in his tenure. So, they believe that they're, one of the probably top 5 college football programs in the country. And that coaching job is one of the 5 best coaching jobs in the country. And, hard to argue against it. But if you look at their tradition, they don't stack up necessarily, with what Alabama's done. Knows who else has. But, they haven't won a national championship since 1980. So a lot of us that are not Georgia fans that live in this market will remind them of that. Like Georgia Tech has won a championship in the more recent past than you have, which gets on their nerves. So they feel like in the next year or 2, they need to win it all just to validate their coaching hire with Kirby and all of the, 5-star talent that they have. They very much feel that way. So they would be very, very ticked off and disappointed if they don't win it all in the next year or 2.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw this one back to you, Jake Crane, host of the J-Boy podcast. And you go back since 1980. Look at Georgia's neighbors. Clemson, 3 national championships. And by the way, all 3 of Clemson's championships, 1981, quarterback Homer Jordan from Athens, Georgia. Then you look in 2016, Deshaun Watson, Gainesville, Georgia. 2018, Trevor Lawrence, Cartersville, Georgia. Tennessee won a national championship in 98. Florida State has won 3 since 1980, 93, 99, and 2013. Florida, 3, 96, 06, and 08. Miami, 5, 83, 87, 89, 91, 01. Okay. You look at Auburn and Alabama, like 11, if you count them the way Alabama does. That's like 26. Georgia Tech has won 1. It's like 26 national championships by those schools since Georgia. But Georgia continues to recruit at an elite level. And they sell out every game. They have unlimited resources and the 4th most talent-rich state in America. Jake, I know about half the time when an elite football player in the state of Georgia leaves the state of Georgia, he'll go to 1 or 2 schools, Auburn or Clemson. But I'm going to tell you what, in the last 5 years or so, especially when it comes to linemen, offensive linemen, Auburn's not getting their share of those elite players. And there's so much talent in Georgia. Talk about the state of that and again, why you think Georgia is still so popular despite the fact they can't talk about the national championships that all their neighbors have. I mean, it's a great program, no doubt. I love it.
I've always said, and again, the fact that Texas hasn't been good and people always talk about it is shocking and is unacceptable. But the fact that Georgia hasn't won a national championship since 1980 is almost unforgivable, because I will put the state of Georgia per capita and talent, not only in football, but in basketball and really baseball as well, up against any state in the continental United States and all the ones that float around us.
Yes.
When you name a good Auburn player, he's probably from Georgia in football and basketball.
Yep.
So, you're exactly right with what Gus Malzahn, really his downfall. And then this past year, you look at how many recruits they had from Georgia, it's basically none. And I think that had to do one of the deals with him being let go. But when I look at Georgia and they're a cover 2 on 4th and 15 away from winning a national championship, is I think that Kirby Smart is on the same path, really, mentally, that Nick Saban was, but Saban won a national championship before he did. What do I mean by that? Well, offensively, we all remember when Nick Saban got to Alabama, his offense was let's play a game but don't turn it over and throw the ball to Julio Jones, play great defense and special teams, and we'll beat you 20-3 and win the national championship. Well, a couple years in a row, he got outscored and boat raced and had to make the decision that, well, we have to evolve on offense or it doesn't matter how good we're on defense because offenses are getting so good. The pace is starting to pick up, which makes things a lot harder, and the game is changing. And look how many more national championships Alabama won once they started having a mobile quarterback, when they kind of went to more of a spread. They never left the traditional style, but look how much more Alabama's in the shotgun now with guys like Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa and stuff like that, as opposed to where they were. They even let Jalen Hurts play quarterback. They were so evolved offensively in the run and perimeter game. So I think Kirby Smart is starting to figure that out, that you have to evolve offensively as well. And that doesn't mean just having a quarterback that's a dual threat guy, having a guy like JT Daniels that it's 1st and 10 and you can throw it a lot, or you can sit here and take chances in the passing game or go up tempo and be a little diverse without totally ruining your defense. And I think Georgia has a really good chance to win it next year. They just better hope they don't get wrapped up in this NCAA stuff. And from what I've heard, they're snooping around right now with this whole Amarius Mims deal. So I think it's inexcusable. Even before Kirby, they haven't won one since then, even fluked around and won one, and they'll win one eventually. But it's hard to hold people in an upper echelon because you got a bunch of people that are good at stuff that hang around with you, as opposed to you accomplishing stuff on your own. And Georgia's kind of been the second prettiest girl at the dance for a while now.
Well, look, man, when you're second place, you're the tallest midget in the room. I mean, it's no fun. And you look at Auburn's 2010 national championship team, Cam Newton from College Park, Westlake High School in Atlanta, 2013.
Nick Marshall,
Trey
Nathan,
Bryce
Brown,
Pineview,
Harper,
yeah.
Bo Geeky.
Yeah. Nick Marshall was from Pineview, Georgia. Trey Mason was from Worth Garden, Palm Beach down there in South Florida.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say Trey. I'm sorry.
But you're talking about, you could say, the linebacker.
Everybody else, Derek Brown, everybody, go down the list.
Yeah, you're talking about Trey Mason, the great linebacker out of LaGrange.
Yes, Trey Blackman.
Trey Blackman, yeah. Billy, you being from LaGrange, sorry about that. But look, those are great points. And let's do this, guys, real quick. We're going to take a quick commercial, take time for a couple of commercial breaks here from our sponsors here on Sidelines.live. Jake Crane, host of the J-Boy podcast. It is great. You need to be listening to this. You can find it. It's up on our website at Sidelines.live and also on his website. Billy Roberts down in Atlanta. We're going to take these quick commercials. We're going to come back. Jimmy Ott from ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge is going to be on with us, talking about LSU football, LSU basketball, SEC, and college. And want to say this too. Tom Dorian, the Dorian Insurance Agency, one of our sponsors, 6240 Poplar Avenue, 901-328-5858. I know him well. Tom is a good friend. He's also my insurance agent. Property and casualty, homeowners, life insurance. He's got a great team around him. And if you're like most Americans, you might go years between making a claim on your insurance. They have a program that allows you to return up to 25% of premium. Tom Dorian, have that conversation. You don't know how much insurance you need until you know how much you need. Tom Dorian can help determine the number. He's a friend. I trust him. CBHS alumnus, University of Memphis alumnus, 3-year starter on the offensive line in college football. He is everybody's All-American. Tom Dorian, the Dorian Insurance Agency. Check them out on our website, Sidelines.live. We got 30 minutes to go on the Friday edition of Sidelines.live, broadcasting from Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. We'll be right back. Still there? Okay. Hey, Jake?
What up? Hey,
Yeah.
Sorry about that, man. I typically get on my Bluetooth. I don't.
Yeah, I was wondering. That's weird. Do they? I don't have a Bluetooth. I mean, I don't know if I guess in my truck it's just synced. But yeah, it was amazing when you switched. Hold on, get rid of me. I kind of grizzly long cut when I go. Yeah, NP, got it. Okay, Audrey, I got to make sure and get MJ some grizzly long cut wintergreen. Okay. Yeah, this is this is interesting. Amarius, man, Billy. Are y'all hearing about Audrey? Can anybody hear? Are y'all? Yeah. Okay. I'll I'll tell y'all off the air. Billy, you there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell y'all off the air, but Jimmy Ott should be calling in here. Let me cue him up right now. Just a second.
Hey, I need to get Jimmy on. I need to get Jimmy on.
Yeah, he's fantastic. 1 second. Let me get my feeble little brain. Okay. Let's see. Call now. Okay. At dash 901. Yes. Okay. Hey, Billy, if you got to get off, you get off because I'm going to get you back on in the morning. I don't want to wear you out.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No problem. I'll be ready to go in the morning.
Yeah. Billy, I'm going to call you after the show, but yeah, we'll be back on in the morning and again on Sunday because I'm just trying to, because I don't want to wear you out 3 straight days. Thank you a million.
Right. I got all kind of content for you. I'm ready. I never run out of material.
Yeah, I know it's awesome. So I'm going to call you after the show. We'll plan tomorrow. And okay.
Okay.
Hey,
That sounds
thank
good.
you.
Take care.
All right, man.
Bye.
All right. Okay. Hey, Jake, how many seconds?
Yo.
Okay. I'm gonna send you a text real quick.
Hey, I was watching Rodney Dangerfield clips last night, just geeking on Johnny Carson. I'd never seen him before. Y'all were talking about it. Man.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, man, that guy, that was hilarious. Okay. Rob Brown back here with you, broadcasting live, Red River Ford Toyota over in Wynne, Arkansas. We've been talking with Austin Futrell from the service department here at Red River Ford Toyota, Justin Wynn, the general manager. Audrey and I are over here in the war room where they do all the planning at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Easy to get to, 45 minutes from Memphis on I-40. Get off there at the Forest City exit, go north 11 miles, or on Highway 64 going back and forth to Augusta or Heber Springs, Greers Ferry, half mile south of 64, right by the Walmart. Red River Ford Toyota. Check them out on our website on sidelines.live. Hey, great work. Billy Roberts from Atlanta will be back on with us tomorrow. Got Jake Crane, host of the J-Boy podcast, and Jimmy Hodge is going to try and bounce back in with us. He's on a couple of missions simultaneously at the same time, as Junior Samples used to like to say on Hee Haw. And but Jake Crane will be joined here in a minute, hopefully by Jimmy Ott of ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. Look, the state of Georgia, you're right. Football, baseball, basketball, they've got everything in that state. A ton of people. You know, Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers makes the comment frequently as a guest on Sidelines.live that the state of Alabama in high school football is where the state of Georgia was 10 years ago. Do you see them putting out the hundreds of players? That one is.
The biggest thing is Georgia pays their high school coaches better than Alabama does. That's another thing. Georgia high schools pay their coaches.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that are making Hoover and Spain Park and Mountain Brook money all over the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
So until the state of Alabama is able to disperse the wealth financially to these top-ranked head coaches, they're trying to do it. You can already see Mark Hudspeth at Gulf Shores. I promise you that wasn't cheap. They're trying to make that push, but that's been a big knock against the state of Alabama. They don't pay high school coaches as well as what Texas does and Georgia does and all this stuff. So that's something that could be felt all through the state and would improve the play. Now, will they go full board for that? I don't know. But when you look around Georgia, there's also another thing that we have to take into account. You're going to have a lot of kids, and it's already happening from the West Coast, move to Georgia and Florida to play. And so the talent-rich states are getting more and more talent-rich. There's about half a class full of players from this last group that will be seniors, not this year, but next year, that left the state of California.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a huge influx, because I remember when Hurricane Katrina hit, half the best players in the state of Alabama were guys that had to come up from Louisiana.
Yeah,
you
they
look
were.
at Courtney Smith at Prattville. I mean, a bunch of guys. So it's going to be more than that. I think there'll actually be more people moving in because of all the stuff going on the West Coast than there actually was kids coming up from Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, and look, we've got, speaking of Louisiana, man, one of our favorite, one of the best in America, Jimmy Ott of ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. Jimmy, you're on with Jake Crane, host of the J-Boy podcast, and Rob Brown, and welcome to Sidelines, and jump on in about this redistribution of talent around the country, spurred by the mass exodus of a lot of great talent from the state of California because they're in lockdown out there and they can't do anything.
Well, it's also got to do with, when the SEC and some other programs, maybe 15, 20 years ago, really stepped it up a notch for the facilities and just the administrative support. It's a different deal. I had somebody on from California this morning on my show talking about Larry Scott and some of the decisions they made. And, and my friend has been to the SEC media days and Pac-12 media days. It's nothing close. So I'm watching the horses right now, Rob.
Okay.
Forgive me. But anyway.
Frank Duffy,
But
one of our
they,
guys, has a horse down there.
Yeah. So I'm down on the coast. So they look, man, it's I mean, do you want to, as student athletes, you can't pay them unless it's, McDonald's bag. But the thing is, but do you want to stay at the Howard Johnson's or the Ritz-Carlton for 3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
So, and those schools out there, I've been on UCLA's campus. Their equipment is kept in an outside shed. They have one practice field. It's just a different deal, man. So, it's hard. 7 of the 11 top gross revenue producing football programs are from the SEC, and Tennessee's one of those. And that's why Tennessee's always a decent job. I think they hit a home run in some really rough times with their AD hire, but he's got an uphill battle. But no, it's just, look, man, I mean, you guys are talking about Katrina. I grew up in New Orleans. It's hurt. The Grant Delpit grew up in Katrina, being in New Orleans, but he went to Houston. Eddie Lacy was at West Jefferson. He moved up to Baton Rouge or a suburb in Dutchtown. So absolutely, Louisiana is always a fertile recruiting ground, but Tennessee was once a time, man, when they go pick up Cozy Coleman and Jamal Lewis from Atlanta, Heath Schuler from North Carolina, Peyton Manning, Robert Peace, and Niall Sylvan from Louisiana. So they've got a long way. It's all about your branding and also your effort, your staff. So.
Yeah, it really is. Jake Crane, you're on here with us. You look at recruiting all over the place, and you're talking about California. Last year on the ESPN top 300 players in the country, only 40 of the 300 in the February class of 20 were from the geographical footprint of the Pac-12. Of those 40, 21 of them are from California. Over half of them left the state of California. It's getting worse. And Jimmy's right. It's about branding, and they're notoriously cheap out there with their facilities. And it's paying, and you're right. It is killing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob, UCLA basketball, as storied as it gets, they fly commercial. I mean, come on.
God.
I mean, they are notoriously the UCLA basketball flies commercial. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's like Led Zeppelin flying commercial. I mean, that's.
Yeah. I don't think that was
like
on
Rob
good
Brown
experience
flying
at all.
commercial.
That's
Baby.
right. or Jimmy Hodge riding the Greyhound. I mean,
there you go.
But Jimmy's going to hopefully be back on here with us at the 20 till or quarter till. But Jake Crane, chime on in here. I love this. This is great stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I look at it and I look at Tennessee, I think the way actually, recruiting has gone nationwide, especially with social media, I think hurt them a little bit. We talked about it, but, I had Frosty Rucker on and we're releasing that tomorrow, former standout at USC. And, we had a long talk about this. And one of the things we talked about was attendance too. You got to go all the way to number 22 to find a Pac-12 team that's even in the top 25 in attendance. And obviously the SEC and Big 10 and Big 12, it's all littered in the top 10 and 15. And it really is a way of life down here as opposed to out there. And I thought Frosty made a great point. He's like, I grew up in a small town really in California, and all we had was football. And there were 4 of us from my high school team that played in the NFL. He's like, but you go to LA and those kids really don't care about football that much. It's just another thing to kind of do. He's like, the only option we had was football. And when you look at the South, You know, I'll use myself as an example. I mean, I grew up in Alabama. We didn't have a pro sports team. It's all about SEC football, and it really is the way of life. But, you know, Jimmy brings up a great point. The facilities here and the ability to get in the playoff, we didn't even talk about a Pac-12 team getting in the playoff. That's not even – so why would a kid who's trying to go to the NFL that maybe the number 2 DN in the country that's out in Rancho Cucamonga want to go play for a team where he's going to go 6-6, he may get drafted, as opposed to going to Alabama or LSU or Auburn or Florida or Georgia Tech, to where you're going to be playing in the best league in the country on the best channel that gets the most views. You have the most tape against quality opponents to get the scouts, and you have a chance to make the playoffs. So really, to me, I think recruiting has turned into more of a business decision, like we talked about. And right now in the SEC, business is booming.
It is. Jimmy Hodge.
Look, guys,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when it used to be in the 70s, my buddy Neil Delicano went from Baton Rouge to UCLA. I mean, Joe McKnight went from New Orleans to USC, and we can go on and on. And but they're coming now. They're calling the schools here. And so it's flipped, and it's about, you know, a lot of eyeballs and the branding and the ability to showcase your skills. I mean, Elijah Ricks, he came from California. He's a cornerback for LSU. I mean, the backup for DJ, the backup for T-Law over at Clemson, he contacted Dabo Sweeney. Najee Harris is from the Bay Area. I mean, it's just, you know, they're really suffering, and I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon.
Well, Jimmy, I want to ask you this, because I think you'd have a good perspective on this. How much worse is this about to get for the Pac-12? Because you know the SEC is about to take this, you know, image and likeness stuff and run with it to the moon. I think that stuff is going to create an even bigger gap in between the SEC and Big Ten. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if the Pac-12 don't watch out, the AAC's coming for them, and they'll end up taking that spot eventually with the teams and the want to, and how important football is to that conference, especially if they're able to add 1 or 2 teams that are able to compete, a BYU or somebody like that. So what do you think about the image and likeness making that gap even wider? Because you know,
no, sure,
will not fall behind.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It's going to only widen. And the thing is, I'd like to see an American versus Pac-12, challenge. I think, you know, not that the Americans, but they're absolutely as good, if not a little bit better. But it's just, and my buddy Bruce Marshall, executive editor for the Gold Sheet for 50 years, really, really sharp guy, grew up in Orange County, now lives in Vegas. And he's just, their administrators, and we talked about this, guys, back in July and August, are we going to have a football season? And we said the university presidents in the SEC, the ADs and the coaches have more input to their decisions than the Pac-12. Yeah. And I mean, the coaches had to, the Big Ten is not that much far off, but they have a whole lot more support. They're putting 80, 190,000 in every stadium practically up there. But the Pac-12 is completely different, and it's about their, educators, or sometimes in the back of the line as far as common sense. And, it's all nice to win the Olympic, swimming, diving, crew, lacrosse, but they all lose money.
Yeah, you're talking about Stanford. That's a great example of that athletic program has tons of money, but people don't care. And a lot of people will tell you, if you go to a game at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, you could even go to the Southern Cal UCLA game. Most of these people at the game are going to be over it either way, win or lose, by the time they get back to their car in the parking lot.
Rob, how many cities in the Pac-12 that have a Pac-12 team there depend almost solely on the athletic program, which translates to football, like Auburn does, or Knoxville does, or Oxford does, or Tuscaloosa does? LA don't care. LA don't need USC. They don't need UCLA. Corvallis doesn't need Oregon State's football team to be dominant to survive. Down here, you really depend. That's one of the reasons I think the SEC too was so patient with this COVID stuff, because Auburn as a town has grown based on what Cam Newton did in 1 year.
Yeah. Well, think about this, Jimmy Hyde. Jimmy Hyde, I'm going to throw this one at you. Of the original SEC members going back to 1933, ironically,
you're old, Rob.
No, what's
1993?
No, 1933. My dad was 5 years old then. But think about Auburn's the only school of those original schools left that still is called by the name of the town. They used to be Tuscaloosa plays Knoxville today, but I think it's the history. In a comparison, I had a Marine and a guy and a soldier in the Army tell me this. They said, in the Army, you get about 10 hours of Army history in your 13 weeks of basic and AIT. You get about 10 hours of Army history. In the Marine Corps, you get about 100 on average. Now, which group has more pride? I mean, it's not even close. That's the SEC. Nothing against the Army, but the Pac-12 they're clueless.
More.
They're clueless.
It
Yeah.
just means more.
Yeah, Larry Scott's out there trying to say we want to grow our numbers in the Asian television markets. Look, those people over there, they don't care.
Well,
about
then do
college football.
sumo wrestling. Well,
Yeah.
then get sumo wrestling.
Yeah, and the SEC, you look at people from around the world come here and cover college football in the South because it matters. And I want to throw this one out to Jimmy Ott. In New Orleans, look at the talent that comes out of those schools. Probably 75% of the schools in the New Orleans area are Catholic schools, and they've many of them great high school football.
I grew up. It's called the Catholic League, and I grew up in that league and played in that league. But I mean, our mayor is trying to just shove the whole damn city down the toilet. So she's wonderful. But anyway, besides that, I mean, yes. I mean, I told you guys, do y'all care more about swimming and diving at Auburn? Do they care more about lacrosse at Johns Hopkins in Syracuse? Do they care more about wrestling in Iowa? So they're going to shift their resources into those programs. And the Pac-12 was far behind. And one of the things that Larry Scott did, instead of making a uniform Pac-12 network, he went to regional ones like Southern California, Arizona, Northern California, Pacific Northwest. He went to regional, and it was terrible. Then they're playing games at 9:00 local time. USC Arizona State was a joke. I know it's the first week and it's sloppy offensive football, but man, it was just bad. And so he had some innovative ideas at the beginning, but they gotten left behind, and it's a long way before they come back.
Jimmy, Jimmy Hodge has made this point repeatedly, and I hope he can call in. But DirecTV doesn't even have a deal with the Pac-12 in the Los Angeles. It's ridiculous.
You'd have thought Michael Scott put that together instead of Larry Scott.
That's right. I mean, it's just absurd. And you've got, look, the population in California, we don't know what it is, but we do know this. A lot of athletes, the families are moving out. Go back in the Dust Bowl back in the 30s. A lot of people left the Midwest and settled in California. Look, California, yeah, we know about San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco on the coast. But you go from Bakersfield to Fresno, what they call the Central Valley, about 450 miles. You might as well be in Alabama, Mississippi, or Arkansas with all the rice and the duck hunting there.
It's funny you say that, Rob. When I was up there in Montana coaching, my best safety was a kid from Bakersfield. His dad, I think, was worked in the mine or something. And he's about the toughest kid. He reminded me of a kid from, the country part of where we're from, just tough nose, hard nose, brought his lunch pail, wasn't high maintenance. Just kind of speaking of what you're talking, it was Bakersfield, California, man. He said the only difference between where we're at now is you can't smell the cow pies where we're at now.
That's right. Hey, Jimmy, thinking about this, let's talk some LSU basketball right now. Will Wade.
Bro, do we have to?
Hey, yeah, but that was ugly the other night, but Will Wade.
It was rough, baby.
Yeah, look, it was rough. And Alabama is really, really looking better. They keep getting better. But look at the job that Will Wade has done. And the attacks are coming from everywhere against him. Sean Miller, the coach of Arizona, Bruce Pearl, you name it. But you know what? These guys are usually at their best when they're being persecuted the most, like the Catholic Church is. So tell me in your mind, what is going on and what do you think will happen ultimately to get this? Has just got to stop. It's 3 years and running.
Well, you've asked this before, and the thing that the NCAA has is a lot of media and public pressure. LSU's kind of the punchline as far as, oh wait, they slapped Notre Dame for Brian Kelly taking a picture with a recruit, and Will Wade's doing this at LSU. And so, I mean, they're the villain. We know it, and that's okay. But let me tell you, give me the villain. Give me a chance to win at LSU basketball because it's not easy. because not only are you overlapped in the season with LSU football, which drains a lot of the fan base, but also baseball at LSU is very, very popular.
Yeah.
It is a tough place to get people excited about playing. I don't care if they're talking about us or not. Look, if Rice gets hit with probation, who gives a crap? Okay, he's going to get us to the tournament for the third year in a row, and I mean, in only his fourth year, won the league 2 years ago. Look, hey man, it was rough Tuesday night. Trust me. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama's got it going. It's been a little back-to-back hurricanes down here with the Saints getting knocked out and LSU getting embarrassed, but still, they got to wake up. And the great thing is Kentucky's on the schedule tomorrow, because no matter how bad Kentucky's struggling, they're still Kentucky, and the kids will be ready to go. But give me Will Wade, because he gives us a fighting chance, of winning basketball games.
Yeah, he is an outstanding coach, and we'll see what happens. Look, Jimmy and Jake, you both know, and everybody does. People love to start pushing a narrative, whether they have the facts or not. Let the truth come out, as it is, and we'll see. But I want to say this too about, you mentioned about college baseball. We're going to have Butch Thompson, Auburn's baseball coach, on with us in the morning, talking about college baseball season. You're hearing a lot of different narratives from around the country, but it looks like the SEC is going to try to be full on in baseball. And what's going on LSU, which is the pinnacle, they are the superpower in college baseball. They pack them in 12,000
fans.
Yeah,
25% fans.
Okay.
They're going to do the. I think it's only conference only. They'll do 4-game series in 3 days. So everything trying to take care of financially helpful, and also it's safety wise. So looks like it's going to be 4-game series the whole way for SEC baseball.
Hey Rob.
Yeah.
Can I say something about Alabama basketball just for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. We're just bouncing around the round table.
Number one, I think Jimmy answered that perfectly. Even something's coming because they got him on tape, but everybody does it. If you think they're cheating, if you think cheating in college football is bad, then you have no idea what goes on in college basketball with the AAU. It's an absolute, I don't know how they keep up with it. And apparently you don't have to go to classes at Duke or North Carolina, and they don't care. So, but if you're Sharif Cooper or you're LSU, they'll wait 3 years and bench a kid for half of a season for no reason, really, other than his dad's an agent, which is hilarious. But I want to caution Alabama basketball fans for a second, because I've seen the way that Nate Oates coaches is very similar to the way that Bruce Pearl does in their style of play. And this Alabama team reminds me of the SEC, rolled pretty much through the SEC tournament, and then barely beat College of Charleston, I think, in the first round, and got rolled by Clemson. Because when you shoot that many threes, you really want to get hot toward the end of the year. That's why Auburn went to the Final Four. They were they caught this hot streak that Bama's on at the SEC tournament through the NCAA tournament. They couldn't miss. So I remember this same Alabama team that got beat at home by Western Kentucky, and everybody wanted to fire Nate Oates, and they're going to start missing threes here soon, because that's just how it works, and they're going to drop a couple games, and it'll go back to earth. But what I want to say is, do not crown – Will Wade has taken his team to the tournament. Bruce Pearl's made a Final Four. Frank Martin's made a Final Four. There's other – done well in the tournament. Don't crown Nate Oates until he can make something other than the NIT and actually win a game in the NCAA tournament. I've never seen a media and fan blitz like this, like Nate Oates is John Wooden. Watch what happens when they lose to Mississippi State here in a couple of days. They'll be ready to fire him. So I'm just going to caution everybody.
Yeah, but what you're saying right now is you're talking about them. They're relevant, and that's hard to do in Tuscaloosa.
Oh well, no, okay? You're right. You're
that's
right.
Hard to do.
The all of a sudden they're worried that Nate Oates is going to get hired by Duke when Coach K retires. I heard an ESPN
no, that's good.
who I've had on the show say that if Coach K leaves Duke, Nate Oates is a guy they're really going to look at.
Nate Oates is hot now. I mean, he's hot,
but you got to win a game in the tournament. I mean, you got to make the tournament.
I understand, but he's going to win. He's going to win the league this year. And the thing is, and I agree with you, perimeter shooting, it comes and it goes. It gets hot and it gets cold. But the only thing that Bama has going for them that they have, several guys that can shoot it. So if this guy's cold, go to this guy, and this guy, so they, but yes, indeed, it's the talent, and that's why it's different, and it's more, as far as the tournament's concerned, is more attractive, more entertaining than college football, because if Winthrop gets hot, they can beat Duke. They can beat Iowa. All right. And so, but Coastal Carolina has no chance of beating Ohio State or Alabama. No chance.
No, it's totally different sport, less players. I mean, but my thing.
But look, Oats, they're favored in every game the rest of the way. Are they going to win every game? No. But this is a team that could go 16-2, 17-1.
Yeah, I'm not
think about not only do they fire up the threes, not only do they fire up the threes, but they also are number one in opponents' field goal percentage in the league.
That's where they're better.
So they play defense as well.
Yes, that's the difference in their team this year. I'm not even talking about the SEC. What I'm saying is, I've seen this movie before. We all have. Then all of a sudden, you play VCU in the first round, and you can't make a three in the first half, and they've got some 7-foot dude from Lithuania that you haven't seen all year, or you run into a Big Ten team, and that league is loaded, and you can't make a three, and they're making you slow down the pace on offense. That's where that defense has to bail them out. All I'm saying is, to be considered elite in the full scale of things, you have to do things in the postseason. There's people that don't think Kirby Smart's a good coach because he can't win the national championship. But all I'm saying is,
let's not confuse elite with having a chance. Okay?
There you go. That's my whole.
They have a chance, and they could get knocked out in the first round, and they could go to the Final Four for the first time ever. So they have a chance. Same thing with Bruce Pearl. Same thing with Will. They give them a chance at sports where they're so far down the totem pole as far as fan base interest.
Well, Bruce has done it. Bruce has been to the final. What I'm saying is, before we crown somebody, let's let them win. And I'm not accusing you of this. I'm saying the national narrative. But what I'm saying is, and you know this as well, it all goes smoothly when you're hitting the three. If Petty is not hot with Bruner out right now with that MCL, because Bruner's a huge part of what they do, and they're going to need him come tournament time, is you have to have something behind you when the three's not falling. It's been defense so far, but I'm just very interested to see, because I don't think the league has an elite team this year, to be honest with you.
Hey, Jimmy Hodge, jump on in here right now. I know you just got back on with us. Jimmy Ott is on down in Baton Rouge with us, and this is great stuff. Jimmy Hodge, come on.
Well, I think it's notable to point out that a lot of these same players were on the Alabama roster last year, and you could just tell that they really had not bought in. I mean, in close games, they didn't really seem confident they would, they would win in the end. A road loss at Florida was particularly noticeable to me. That it still hadn't quite rubbed off here. You get in a tight situation, you're not really confident that you can win, and now they have completely bought in. Plus, they have multiple guys that can shoot the three. And Quinterly the other night, man, if that guy's shooting the ball like he did against LSU, but of course, you're not going to have many games where a lot of those guys are going to be shooting the ball like they did against LSU. But at the same time, though, they have been defensively much more energetic, aggressive, and they're very athletic. And another reason I think Bama can really make a run, though, is that they have a bunch of guys they can play. They can go 8 or 9, maybe even 10 deep. Now, you may not have a lot of scoring from all of those guys, but man, they can give you energy. They can give you good defensive play. A lot of intangibles that you need. And in an NCAA field this year that, other than Gonzaga and Baylor, you can just throw, 30 or 40 teams just in a box and draw one out. I mean, Alabama certainly has a good chance to make a run, but everybody's right about the fact in this age of the three-point shot, teams that rely on it, well, obviously, you got to be hitting them, but at the same time, Oates is big into this analytic theory, and he's right.
if you're 11 for 33 from 3-point range, that's equivalent to 50% from the field in 2-point attempts. And forever, what have we always heard? What's the magic percentage to hit from the field if you're going to win a game? 50%. So if they're hitting a little bit better than that, and the way they're playing defense, their chances of winning are going to be even better. So it's going to be a really unpredictable, excellent tournament, I think, just from a competitive standpoint. Now, we know the quality of play is nowhere close to what it used to be because of the one and done and all these guys leaving, which creates a very difficult job for a coach to create any kind of continuity and build any chemistry with the program. But hey, it is what it is. Hopefully they'll get rid of it in a couple of years and we can have teams staying together longer.
Yeah.
Hey, keep this in mind. The shot chart on Tuesday night, everything was in the paint or 3-point.
Yeah, that
Every
was
shot, not one field goal attempt outside of the paint and the 2-point range. So, I mean, no, you know what they're trying to do. But listen, there is Gonzaga, Baylor, and then even though they lost last night to Indiana, but Iowa and Villanova after that, and then Bama's in that next group from about 5 to 18, and so they have a shot.
Yeah, no. Again, in basketball, I mean, and it's just like baseball too. Obviously, in one game, if you got a dominant pitcher, you always have a shot. But I agree, man. Watching Gonzaga play, watching Baylor play, Gonzaga to me, it's got to be just so frustrating because they got Jalen Suggs and a couple other guys that you look at and you're like, man, those guys look like NBA players, and the rest of them just looks like guys that you see at the Y. That you're the young guy and you think you're going to go in there and run them, and then all of a sudden you leave after getting skunked 3 games in a row because you just got pump faked out of your shoes 30 times. But watching them play, Mark Few to me is such an unbelievable coach.
Yeah.
With what he's been able to do with that program. But Baylor, athletically, Davion Mitchell, a guy that actually transferred from Auburn. But I do Jimmy. Isn't it just amazing though? And when you look around, how dominant the SEC can be in a major sport when they make their mind up, they want to be dominant. You look at the NBA draft picks last year, the SEC had more than any other conference in the first round and in the top 10. And there's really no other easy wins. And it's a good conference when the team that has the worst record is coached by Jerry Stackhouse. So it's just amazing to me when the SEC makes its mind up, it wants to dominate something, how easily and quickly that really comes to fruition.
And also the money that was on the line for all the big TV contracts. Guys, look, unfortunately, we have run out of time, and I'm going to tell you what, we're going to be back on tomorrow. Jimmy Ott down in Baton Rouge, ESPN 104.5. Tell people how they can follow you, and then we'll close out. Jimmy Hodge up in Chicago, Jake Crane, host of the J-Boy podcast. And Jimmy, we love having you, but let people know. And also, I know you do a lot with the betting lines, and people need to follow you.
Follow me on Twitter at Jimmy Ott 1045, and also a daily gambling podcast on 1045ESPN.com. And we're on Monday through Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. and on Fridays, 10 to noon. Guys, y'all have a great weekend, man.
You do too,
Enjoy
man.
it.
Hey, it's always great having Jimmy Ott on the show, and man, he is so good. And Jimmy Hodge, thanks again for joining back on. Jake Crane, tell people how they can follow you on the J-Boy podcast real quick too. I was listening to one of them today. It's great stuff, and we get the dueling Jimmys and Jake on here, man. I mean, this is awesome. But Jake, tell them real quick, and then we'll close it out.
Yeah, well, first off, I love listening to Jimmy and them down there. I've had T-Bob on and Jacob Hester and all them. Y'all do a great job, Jimmy. I'd love to have you on. But you can find the J-Boy Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can get podcasts, really. You can go to the jboyshow.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram at the J-Boy Show. Got a big one tomorrow, obviously, with Frosty Rucker. Had FIU special teams coordinator Harrison Green on today, going behind the scenes, kind of how special teams works, practice-wise, sideline management, and really kind of, like I said, going behind the scenes. But always appreciate coming on, Rob. Got some big things coming on next week as well, so check us out.
All right, hey, look, thank y'all so much. We'll be back on, Sidelines tomorrow morning, Sports 56, WHBQ, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 Eastern, 96.1 and the new FM 98.5. Check them out, WHBQSports56.com. Also, always you can hear any of our shows, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, podcast, whatever, www.sidelines.live. And again, we'll be on Sunday, 3 to 5 p.m. for the Sunday afternoon wrap-up show. Hey, we've been broadcasting live today from one of our sponsors. We're so blessed to have Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Justin Wynn, the general manager. Austin Futrell and the service department was out here with us. Rusty Howard, the sales manager. Make your weekend even better than it already is. Go to Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas. John Dobbs Jr., part of that ownership group, the team, Red River Auto Group. Great people to work with. You'll love yourself. Larry Cervetti, Matei's Garage, 4930 Black Road in East Memphis by Clark Tower. Hey, Dean, Andrew, Matt, 3 great mechanics. Andrew, a Marine. Listen, this guy can fix anything. He's had to do it in the desert. He's had to do it in places you wouldn't even want to think about in your worst nightmares. Great people since 1972. Larry and my Crescio group, man, I love him. UT grad. He's going to be on tomorrow giving some perspective on history of Tennessee football. A lot to talk about. We're going to talk some Arkansas basketball with Eric Musselman. Jake, want to get your thoughts on him and Jimmy tomorrow. There is a whole lot to talk about. And also, Mitch Davis will be on with us. Gordon Ford talking about Memphis basketball, Kentucky basketball, Ole Miss basketball. We're going to be talking about a lot. Always. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors, to all of our listeners. Don't quit because you're tired. Quit because you're done. We're out of here. Hey, man. Thank you so much. That was, man, we could have gone